James.
Why does it say 7 minutes?
It says off air.
It says live in 7 minutes.
Is that what it says?
Yeah.
It's saying live on my side.
Okay.
It says live.
Yeah, we live.
So, are we
Live.
live? All
Yeah.
right. Peace and blessings, family. Peace and blessings. Welcome to our first show, the Constructive Convos. Here, where we are bringing the conversation back to Black. We have a wonderful discussion planned for the family today, and why don't we do some introductions? Have everyone bless up the family. My name is Melanated Goddess.
Yeah. Brother E.
Uh,
Blessings, family. Blessings, blessings.
You know,
Witness, brother witness.
yeah. You know me. I'm Sky Minds, Captain Scarlet, but yeah, I'm gonna just take the whole Sky Minds brand.
Bless up, brother B2.
What's up, everyone? How are you?
Let's go with the topic.
We got Sister Nine Ether. She
Oh,
just joined us.
bless up, sis.
Yeah,
Um,
bless up, peace and love to the family as ever, man. Don't know.
we got Brother Terry and last comer, Brother Raz. Say peace and love to the family, Raz.
Peace and love, family, man. Peace and love.
Bless up, bro.
What's up?
Yeah, so today we kind of come together so that we can talk about can we create black privilege? Can we create black privilege, family? I think a good place to start with creating black privilege would be to define what privilege is. So I'm going to read what the definition of privilege is, and we can kind of go further in talking about whether or not that's something that we can create for ourselves as a people. So, privilege is a special right, advantage, or immunity granted or available only to a particular person or group. Hmm. So, typically, when this term privilege is utilized, like the term black privilege, we mostly hear about it pertaining to white privilege. So, I'm just going to open it up to the panel if they can if they know what types of examples of white privilege that they know of. What are some examples that we could kind of list off of what white privilege is?
Yeah,
An
I'm happy to go
example of
first on that.
white privilege. Terribly sorry. Just wanted to mention a various obvious example would be in America. Jim Crow laws in the Deep South, which were official, though they did exist in other parts of the United States of America unofficially. But in America, you had apartheid, the Jim Crow laws, which assigned a great deal of privilege to the white people and allowing them to be able to do things like vote and register to vote and have access to funds to build their communities. So the Jim Crow laws in the South, that's an example of white privilege.
Okay.
Yeah,
Anyone
yeah.
else?
You could say with employability, well, because especially in the West, the white community are the majority, so they more become the standard, and where they're not used to interacting with us so much and having to accept certain of our cultural differences, they prefer to hire their own in it, which is basically like nepotism. So they have increased employability, where other communities who don't lock in their situation, um, yeah, they don't have that privilege.
Right, right. That's very true. That's very true. So we have the Jim Crow laws, and we have like employability. Anyone else?
Yeah, can I go? So I think white privilege allows for certain, well, white people to not look suspicious um as black people do. So I'll give you an example. Going into a shop or walking down a road, black people often feel a certain level of suspicion is directed towards them. where white people don't experience that in the same way, or even what you're wearing. You may, as a black person, you may have been labeled a gangster for the clothes you're wearing, or wearing the same hat that a white person could wear, but in a different sort of way. Um, that could lead to you being labeled as a gangster or something quite negative. White privilege, I think, is also greater access to certain institutions, whether that be legal, political, financial, have greater access. White privilege also allows white people to get a fairer representation in the media, where black people don't. And white privilege allows people to not be surprised when you seem smart, intelligent, or articulate. Whereas if you're any of those things as a black person, it is often highlighted as surprising or against the norm.
Like an exception, right?
Yeah. All of these, I feel, are examples of white privilege.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll
So
just
anyone?
sorry. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask if anyone else had wanted to jump in. So
Yeah.
you good?
Yeah, I'm jumping straight after and say, yeah, basically it's pretty much what the both people said. I don't want to sum it up for everybody else. I want to give everyone else a chance to say, but pretty much basically it's the systematic advantages that white people have in Western civilizations and societies. People like as opposed to racism, it's pretty much the flip side of what racism is. So as B2 was explaining, a black person walks down the street, even if there's no suspicion, there's almost been a trained socialization to feel like people are watching at you, like there's suspicion of you, like you're going to do a crime. It's been indoctrinating you from the news and television and things like this. Whereas the idea of white privilege is that you don't have the reality of white privilege is you probably will not have that same reality or that same experience when you're walking down the streets of the UK. You're not the other. So the white privilege is actually a system where you are normal and everything else is the other.
So what if I take the position, right, and I just say like, well, you know, in reality, there are a lot of, black guys who wear hoodies and their pants is hanging down, and they really are committing crimes. So why would a person be? Why does a person have to have privilege just because that's where their mind goes to, and that they're assuming that this, you know, I'm just throwing that out there. That I'm not saying that's how I believe, but I'm just saying, I'm playing the angel's advocate over here, and I'm saying what you guys are talking as if that doesn't happen.
Yeah, but I mean, white privilege is the what saves you from being judged as a group. I think that's what
Mm.
to explain is that you know there's many instances, many more instances of white crime and white violence, but it's not. It goes underreported in comparison to the idea of black crime and black violence. So yeah, that comes under white privilege in itself. But yeah, other people.
Well, that was a good comeback, brother Scattered. I thought I was gonna have you, on the ropes, but apparently I didn't. You know, I attended a training that actually asked some of the white staff if they were aware of their white privilege and for them to list certain things that they liked about being white. And it was interesting. One of the white women said that she can she can curse out a police officer and not worry about getting arrested. And I was like, wow, like this woman is fully aware of her power, because I know that's not happening. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not happening. Did you? I think,
100 sister. Yeah.
yeah, we all saw how Sandra Bland was manhandled by that police officer and slammed on the hood of his car and just flung around by her arm like he was trying to dislocate it or something. Like it's no way. And the woman was like, "Yeah, I could cuss out a police officer." Someone else mentioned that just by their race, their credit score was automatically a little higher. It was like, wow, these people, you know, Some of them are aware of their privilege.
You know what, Sister Melanated? The fact that that participant in that workshop was able to admit and be aware of their privilege. I'm assuming their ethnic background is Caucasian.
Yes.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
and often with people with white privilege, many of the people have a difficulty being aware of their power and how that impacts their life versus those who don't have that access to that power and the resources. So, what one of the main things about white privilege is that it has this dominant narrative that has almost even not has almost has taken a global effect, not in just our current local country, uh, but to other countries around the world, historically having that maintaining that dominance. And we see that obviously through the media and some of my good brothers just mentioned, in the institutions, in the criminal justice system, but education in school system is where some of the I feel like the narrative is there's this perception on young children early on. There's a perception regarding our Black males in particular during in that school system trying to navigate and it's a big social political uh, power that is often not recognized by some people.
Oh, that's a awesome point, sis. I mean, that is an awesome point. I mean, the I want to come back to the education part, especially when we start talking about solutions, when we get to the part of creating black privilege, and we'll talk about if you all feel that that's possible. But that's an excellent point as far as it being something that is global. I mean, even when you look at this whole skin lightening epidemic, that throughout the globe, people are just wanting to identify with uh, with whiteness, and they're lightening their skin, and just changing their appearance in order to adapt more European features. Um, it's not only what you would call Afrocoid people that are doing it, but just people who have any source of melanin within their skin, and that in itself shows that, like, identifying with them, like, white is right, pretty much. I'm sure people have heard that white is right. So yeah, and also in education. And when you think about the education, it's they're the focal point of the education. They're the center. They're we're taught that they created math and they created literature, and so again, it's still um the privilege of being at the top, and anything that kind of tarnishes their appearance is kind of blurred and put to the background. Um, yeah. Anyone else have some input?
Yes, please. I wanted
Sure.
to, is it possible I could share my screen? I wanted to share a piece of information with all of you in regards to this discussion about white privilege.
Sure. Share along, brother witness.
Cool, I'll just do that right now. If it doesn't crash.
I hope the family is enjoying the show. Make sure you subscribe to the Constructive Convo channel, because we're going to have conversations like this on a weekly basis. We want to talk about critical issues that are impacting our community. We want to strengthen our community. Make sure you hit that like button so that more people will be able to see this video and the suggestions. Okay.
Right,
What you showing us,
cool.
brother witness? What you showing us?
Sure. Can you see my screen now? Are you able to see it? What I'm sharing.
Some
Can you see it at all?
Somebody else answer,
Yeah,
because
we can.
y'all know
Yeah.
I'm driving.
Okay, brilliant.
Yes, brother.
Brilliant. What I'm showing you now is I'm on the website for the Society of Black Lawyers in the United Kingdom. Now, what I wanted to show you in regards to white privilege and how people are trying to combat against it in the UK is here. A report reveals racism at the heart of the UK legal profession. A comprehensive investigation conducted by the former chair of the Commission for Racial Equality, Lord Herman Woolsey, into allegations of racism Discrimination and Victimization within the Solicitors Regulation Authority, has found extensive evidence of institutional racism. The in-depth study was commissioned by minority lawyer groups, which included the Society of Black Lawyers, the Society of Asian Lawyers, the Association of Muslim Lawyers, and the Black Solicitors Network, following pressure from Bridget Prentice MP, a junior minister, and Keith Vaz. And basically what this has revealed is the damning report spoke of a lack of leadership and a culture of bias against ethnic minority solicitors, leading to a disproportionate number experiencing serious interference with their professional practice and reputation. So here is an example of white privilege, which has been going on within the judicial system. A number of Black solicitors have been aware of this, and they decided to basically conduct a report to expose this. The link goes on to talk about how they went about it, how long the report took to compile. But this is basically, it goes on to say that over the last 5 years, it was conducted over 5 years with interviews from members of staff and minority solicitors who were able to make representations. So it discusses the kind of racism, which is a part of white privilege, and it gives solution at the end as to how to try and combat this form of racism or white privilege within the judicial system. So that's an up-to-date example of what's going on in the UK with white privilege, which people are trying to combat. It's on the Society of Black Lawyers website. If anybody's interested, I'll put the link in the chat. Sorry?
Brother Witness, was the section on the solutions, was that like a really lengthy section? Because I would be, if you could just read a couple of the suggestions, I would really want to find out what they recommended were the suggestions.
Sure, I'll bring that up later, because that's on a different link from this one. This one's on their website, but I'll bring that up and I'll tell you once I've got it up. But I'll put this in the chat as well for anyone to see. I'll stop sharing now. Thanks.
Awesome. I wanted to say peace and blessings to our brother Shakara, who's just joined us.
What's up, bro?
Good evening, Shakara.
Blessings, brother Shakara.
Blessings, brother.
Sorry. I just stepped out the room for a second. Blessings.
Okay. Sorry to disturb you.
No problem. It's fine. But yeah, welcome. And thank you for inviting me to the chat. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate it. It's blessings to be here. You know what I mean?
No problem. You family.
See, one of the things though I was talking about, with the history, growing up, if you're growing up in the West, and you don't have a household that is so connected to your history, it's very difficult to find out about your history. It's where if you're obviously from Europe and you're in Europe, they're talking about it all the time, and not only are they talking about it, they're bigging it up and minimizing everybody else's, which affects your self-esteem and how other people even look at you in terms of respect you, because they're like, right, what have you done?
But brother E, the issue that we have also, is that on the continent there is a very much a colonial school system that was left previous to colonialism. So even back home, we don't know about our history, our culture, our traditions, because it's been whitewashed and it's been, put towards their whole ideology of they're the superior. So anything African or anything black is inferior, and everything white or European is superior. So we have that issue back home, and even in the Caribbean, everywhere black people are.
Yeah, indeed. That's definitely our stuff was pushed to the back, and their stuff was pushed to the front, and it does have an overall impact on how we see ourselves, and when you see our young people not even having anything to like look up to, if their home life isn't in the ideal fashion, then they don't have these key figures. I started a club and I had some images of like Dr. Fresh Cress Welsing, who else? I had to think it was Dr. Clark or Dr. Ben. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and one other person. And the only persons that they knew was Martin Luther King, and a few of them knew Malcolm X. But they just were like, I don't know who that is. I don't know. I think I had Marcus Garvey, and they couldn't. They didn't even recognize Marcus Garvey. They don't have these positive images. They don't know anything about the story. Um, I had the red, black, and green flag in my office, and one of the students was like, "Oh, was this like the original American flag?" And I'm like, "What?" You know what I mean? Like, like I mean, literally no understanding of who they are prior to slavery. And when they have like the Black History, because right now it's February in the States and it's Black History Month. Um, they sing Negro spirituals. And I mean, no disrespect to our ancestors who were who were slaves, who were enslaved. No disrespect to our ancestors who were enslaved, and it's good to honor their memory and pay homage to them. However, we have other ancestors that were even before them. We have a rich history, and none of that is represented, and that's just so what's the word I'm trying to say? It's like sad or like I can't. My vocabulary ain't working right now, but you guys know what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to
Yeah.
ask you quickly, like for people in the UK who might not know, like what are Negro spirituals exactly?
Who
Like,
don't know what a Negro spiritual is?
I just want to make sure everyone here knows what Negro
If you don't know, first of all, if you don't know, slap yourself. But yeah, go ahead.
DJ Envy question, yeah.
What's a Negro spiritual?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I would. A Negro spiritual is like a song that songs that our ancestors sang and that connected them to their roots prior to coming to the Americas and the Caribbean. And it's kind of like a combination of both, but it has like the soulful type of sound to it. And when they were indoctrinated with religion, they threw some religion in there, and it's like a combination of like kind of like we shall overcome, a lot of like that. You're gonna when I come up to the mountain to the my savior, he gonna get me out of this oppression, and it just got a lot of soul, so to speak. A lot of soul.
Is that why you're like opposed to that, like that being sang during like this month and stuff like that?
Not only because it's religious. That's not why I'm opposed to it. I guess. I,
No, about
I think when I was in New York, where New York is like, I guess you could say it's like a really really a melting pot, right? And you have very densely populated communities that could be all black or all Caribbean or all Ethiopian or all like the whole community. Then what happens in the schools are expressive of the people. But recently I've been living in environments that was pretty much 50% white and 30% black and 20% Spanish. So you're not getting that type of representation. You're not getting almost any representation.
Right. I've got a question for you, sis. And
Sure.
wait, Hawaii, is it Canada or the United States that Hawaii lives in?
Canada, brother. Peace to
Okay. I had to acknowledge earlier, it's actually the first time I'm hearing your voice, so we give thanks, you know what I mean? But yeah, what's it called?
What's up?
Bless. But yeah, all right. So this question may relate more to Melanated Goddess then, and anybody from the States who's listening in. Yeah. First of all, I do want to say that one of the things with the Negro spirituals is that they kind of, a lot of the times when they deal with it, they strip the history from it. So one of the most popular ones is Wade in the Water. Yeah. and it's relatively well known that
Yes.
the history of that is Harriet Tubman literally trying to free the people there. Yeah. And you know what I mean. So there's a lot of depth or there's another side to the so-called Negro spirituals them that people don't always talk about. You know what I'm saying? That, you know, as well. And so they kind of strip it down and say, yeah, people used to sing them. You know what I'm saying, to uplift their spirit on the plantation, or you know what I mean, to sing to Jesus and whatever. But there's a rebellion kind of history to it as well. You know what I'm saying, which you don't talk about. But
That's
in
what
relation,
that's what I'm trying to get at, in terms of, because like the spirituals to me, in terms that some of them should be sang during like Black History Month. That like they are reminiscent of and they actually teach a lot of lessons. But anyway, carry on. You're the Black History.
Yeah, but I think what Melanated Goddess is getting at is that it kind of limits us to one particular period of history. Yeah. Which during Black History Month,
Yes, that's really what my point is. Like I would prefer an assembly, you know, a school assembly that more so had like a chronological type of thing that might have started with, you know, prior to the transatlantic slavery, you know, maybe, you know, traditional African dance or drumming, like something. But no, they ain't doing none of that. You know what I'm saying? Like they ain't doing none of that.
No, I hear that. But so which relates to my question now, yeah, because in the last year or two, yeah, we've heard a lot of stuff coming from, you know, groups that in the States that define themselves as Black American descendants of slaves, yeah, and do not in any way, shape, or form want to be defined as African. Big contradiction in the fact that
oh boy, brother Shakara.
Yeah, no, because and the reason I have to ask you, because obviously, based on what you just said, yeah, they would have a different view. Yeah, they would say, well, we don't need to be talking about what's it called, ancient African civilization. It don't have much to do with us. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We need to be talking about, you know, we should be proud of our enslaved ancestors and the fact that they survived. And you know what I'm saying? And not to say that I disagree with that point, but you know, like that's their argument. They would say that we should actually be focusing more on our enslaved ancestors and not our ancient African ancestors.
Can't we just focus on both? Just focus on both in the history classes. Teach from the African perspective and also teach from the other perspective. So because the question at the end of the day was, can we create Black privilege? And I'm still trying to understand what Black privilege is, because the only measuring stick I have is what we call white privilege. And I can understand that from a historical point of view. They are teaching history which promotes themselves and their ancestry. And from our perspective, Black privilege would be a case of creating history that promotes all Black people, regardless of whether they see themselves as African or South Pacific Islanders or Australasian, or they don't associate themselves with Africa, they're Black. So it's not, can we create African privileges? Can we create Black privilege? So we just, for the history, we teach everything from the Black perspective, the Black diaspora that helps all Black people. But that's from the historical point of view. How does it move on to the economical point of view? Because we need economic power, and then we need military power, because that all comes into the privilege. Because what's the point in having privilege if you can't defend it financially or militarily? But I guess we're still on the historical educational part. So, that's what I think.
That's a good question there.
Well, I definitely like what you had to say as far as, you know, the Black the Black umbrella as opposed to the African umbrella, because, you know, similar to what Brother Shakara said, is that not everyone will want to come up under that umbrella. Not everyone will want to identify with that umbrella. And, you know, for people who are, you know, just perusing the YouTube community, the YouTube conscious community in the United States, that is a huge, huge debate. I try not to get into that debate of we are indigenous Americans and all of this other stuff, if we are Blacks or Moors, and you know, like I really try to stay clear from that narrative and focus on, you know, me specifically. I know my background, and I know that my background traces to West Africa. Whether or not another Black American in the United States, if I want to say if they just do not want to identify as that, more power to them. But I would say, or I would hope that whether or not, regardless, that they could see people on the continent as a mirror to who they are, right? Like, regardless of the culture, regardless of the language, regardless of the religion, just customs and norms, they are way more similar to us than a European person is. Just in
Yeah.
general, there's books are written about, all of the, the African ways that are found within, you know, black American culture. Like, there's no denying that. But that's neither here nor there. Like Brother Witness said, we're trying to talk about black privilege. What's
I
it all about?
I got answer. I think to the question of how can we create black privilege, and I think I'm gonna do it by being somewhat cheeky and I'm plugging my own show again. Like I uploaded this show earlier, but tomorrow I'll be live. My live tomorrow will be from 7 p.m. 7 on the dot this time. Like fully punctual and all of that. Scam mind timing. But yeah, we'll the show is going to be about the Rock Nation show that was on like last week, and the Rock Nation brunch, and all the black guys that came out there, and they was talking about black power and black excellence and example, blah blah. But anyway, so I just want to plug that and say that's what my show is going to be about tomorrow. If you wanted to come and join for that, and watch 7 p.m. on my channel, Sky Mind Show. And I want to apply that to this conversation here, because I think what we can do in regards to black privilege, whilst in this system, is we can actually create privilege in certain industries and certain areas if we're able to control them. So, for example, if within hip hop, and this is a very big if, but if the Rock Nation plans or whatever it is works out and they are able to gain a certain amount of ownership over distribution, over ownership of record labels, of all of these things, and they actually can own their own culture, as they say, in America, they can then create a privilege for certain artists and from certain communities and backgrounds to get jobs, and not just artists, but background, office workers and all the people who go into putting work into the actual industry. So I think if we can look at things by sector basis, we can actually look at trying to create privileges for our communities in those areas and in those places. But yeah.
So when you say create privileges, Brother Scatter, when you say can you describe what a privilege would be if let's say black people were owning their own business?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so for example, across the UK, I mean, I might get into some trouble with this one, but across the UK, I would say, for example, the Jewish community is a minority community, and the Jewish community don't necessarily directly have Jewish privilege across the UK necessarily. There's quite a lot of anti-Semitism. What the Jewish community definitely does have is control over certain areas. So you have Jewish police, you have Jewish-owned businesses, Jewish-owned shops, and then that power starts to extend into other areas. So maybe people would say that there is a Jewish privilege on the whole, but it starts with that ownership in those sort of local cows and local communities and areas. So, for example, if we were to create or take advantage of some of the places in London where we are heavily populated, we could try to create more environments that will privilege and create opportunities for our youngsters. So a job in a local store or in a local corner store for work experience for kids while they're at school, so they can make some money whilst at school and help their family out. Just things like that will offer wider opportunities to the community, and that in itself is a privilege.
Nice. I can definitely dig that. Oh, I wanted to, while you were talking, I wanted you to be mindful that this is a global show. This is the global internet here, and your show is going to be tomorrow at 7 p.m. in UK time, and that is 2 p.m. US Eastern Standard Time.
Thank you,
right?
sister.
We want to expand that market. We want some of Constructive Convo viewers to tune in to Brother Scattered Mind's show, and vice versa, some of Scattered Mind's viewers to tune into Constructive Convo. So we want to give both time zones, and it's the same in Canada. Is that right, Sister Hoea?
Yes, absolutely, sis.
Okay. At least, yeah, the part of Canada she's in. I guess it's the
We're in
same
the
time.
time.
So,
Yes,
yep.
yes.
Okay. Okay. So we kind of started pushing into talking about um what this, developing this concept of uh black privilege, and it seems like the whole economic piece is a huge piece, right? Because it gives a certain level of power, certain level of influence and making decisions. um Anyone else want to add or chime in on
Yes, I
economic?
just wanted to say the economics, it's all well and good talking about what we need to do, but one of the things I noticed the Black Americans used to do before integration came into effect is the Black Americans used to have their own banks, and through their own banks, they were able to make loans to Black men and women who wanted to start businesses, whether it was grocery stores or it was Black people who wanted to be farmers. In this country, the UK, there's a Black man who's called the Black Farmer, who's,
Hmm.
I think he's well known, he even has his own brand, the Black Farmer. And I think it would be nice if you actually had more Black people doing that, but you would need the economic basis. And the best thing for that, I think, is having Black people who are money lenders in layman terms, who have access to lend people through their own banks. So Black people could go there to try and start a business. And through that business, you would have some kind of a contract where you would be doing business strictly with Black people. So if you open in a store, you would be getting your products from Black farmers, and the Black farmers would be supplying the Black stores. And straight away, you have a situation which used to exist in the United States of America, which most Black Americans were forced into doing because of segregation and racism. So they had their own banks, had their own farmers, they supplied their own grocery stores. That's the kind of privilege you have, where you're controlling your money and you know where the product is coming from. It's coming from your own people, someone you're dealing with directly. Because in order to push through a lot of this stuff, you need finance. And if people of another race are controlling that finance, it's going to be difficult for you as a Black person to be able to access it, because through their application process, your skin color and your name will be used against you. They will see your name and they will just say, no, we're not going to give you the loan. So then again, another form of privilege is being implemented, whereas someone who is called John Smith might go in for the loan and he gets the loan, no problems. Whereas if your name is Emeka Chuku, you're not going to get the loan because you have an African sounding name. So it's, I think we need to be able to control our own finances. I'm not saying we have to be big straight away like Barclays Bank or NatWest, but I'm sure there are many Black men and Black women out there who are able to start their own kind of finance organization where they're lending out money. So it'd be good if we had that. That would enable Black people to start businesses, and that would help to create the Black privilege.
Well, why don't we just plug that right now? Because I know in the U.S. there are I don't even, at one point this list was circulating on Facebook, and if anyone in the chat has an idea of how many Black owned banks there are in the U.S., you can please put that number in the chat, so we can inform the rest of the family. Uh, but I want to round about, say, like maybe 20. There are about 20 Black owned banks in the U.S., give or take five, so maybe 15 or maybe 25, somewhere around there. Black owned banks in the U.S. I do, like you said, I don't believe that they are very big. They're not like, they're not like Citibank or Chase Manhattan Bank or anything like that. They're not, large facilities, but there are Black owned banks. And, when you go on their websites, they're Black people. And, they say, like, we're the first Black owned bank in this region. And, so they're kind of spread out throughout the country, but we definitely need more, and we need the ones that exist to grow. So, everyone that's listening from the U.S., if you can even just open up an account with them, just to help out and support, as well as, see what type of financial products they have, and you can benefit from the products that they have. We really do need to keep our dollars circulating within our community, and not only talk about it, but be about it. So that's definitely
Well,
a great point you made, brother Witness.
I wanted to say before we move on, I hate the term black privilege because it makes us sound as if we're trying to copy white people, and we don't want to copy white people. We want to be better. We want to be ahead doing our own thing. So we don't, because there are mistakes within the whole white privilege thing. Because within the white privilege thing, they have a class system where you have the white upper classes and the working class whites. And the working class whites, I don't think they have white privilege. They're looked at as, you know, hillbillies or rednecks, and they're made fun of. So I don't think we should aspire to have a black privilege, which kind of ends up creating a class system where you have one group of black people who are superior to another group of black people. So I don't know, that word black privilege kind of, it irks me, triggers me. It makes me think, oh, are we trying to copy the whites? Because I don't want to emulate what they're doing.
But you want to know what, Brother Witness? I will even challenge what you just said about the lower class whites not having white privilege. The actual part of the meaning of white privilege, or the term, is that there's privilege just by being white. It's not about you doing anything to. It's not necessarily about you doing anything to warrant the privilege. A perfect example of this privilege: Dylan Roof, the shooter of the Charleston Nine. He wasn't an affluent white boy. He was a redneck. He was just a country, pickup truck driving, shotgun having, redneck white boy. But when he killed those 9 people, he had the privilege of, hey son, are you hungry? Let's take you to Burger King. You know what I'm saying? Like
you're right. Yeah,
that just comes with just being white.
Yeah, in the South here, they look after their own regardless of class. Yeah, I
That
agree.
just comes with I think I've seen countless of videos of white people chasing the police, not getting shot. I don't think the police is looking at if they have a briefcase, or if they look like they came from a board meeting, or knowing what their credit score is or what assets they have. It's literally, you might seem aggressive, but you're not that aggressive because your skin isn't dark, right? And then dark people who aren't even doing anything aggressive are just, you're aggressive. That's kind of how white privilege. That's kind of like how white privilege manifests itself.
Sure, I understand what you mean. Yep, I didn't clarify what I was saying. So, yep, that makes sense. So, but for us to achieve black privilege, we're talking about obviously achieving black privilege within a society where people of our skin color are a minority. Would that black privilege involve segregation?
Can I just jump in it?
Yeah, sure.
There's a question in the chat that pertains to this particular aspect of the conversation, yeah, posted by M.A. Brown, and he's asked me to share it on his behalf. And it says, please ask the question as to whether privilege is contingent on cohabitation, and whether the question is contingent on cohabitation, and whether the question of privilege should be an aim in that sense, as opposed to saturation, whereby there are no other options. I asked him what he means by saturation, and he says, I mean, black privilege is juxtaposed by white privilege. The Sikhs, who are Asians in this country, don't operate Sikh privilege. They are just Sikhs and operate as Sikhs are coded to do. Yeah? So they don't necessarily consider it Sikh privilege or brown privilege or Asian privilege. It's just them doing their thing. So should we be aiming for privilege in that sense? And if privilege is an aim, does it require us to cohabitate? I think is the essence of that.
I think
that's a good question.
I think I just asked that. That was with the segregation thing.
Yeah, maybe the segregation thing. Yeah.
So he's saying. The question is, if the goal is to have black privilege, would that mean would that be a part of integration? Because is cohabitation the opposite of integration? I'm trying to.
And that is the integration. I think, and in answer to try and answer the question, yeah, not every black person wants to be segregated, so we need to create a situation that benefits. Like the privilege part is a word that sometimes has negative connotations, but it just means to create an advantage, right? So, like, I think we should be looking to create this advantage or special right for black people everywhere. So, advantage or special right for black people everywhere. So, those that don't want to segregate or live in isolation, which is very difficult to do anyway, are still protected under that.
Yeah,
Good
I'm
point.
gonna agree.
And
So go ahead, sis.
thank you, brother. I was just even listening to the term Black privilege, and while it does have this negative connotation, and not to get into this discussion about whether certain groups should be segregated or cohabitate, because our reality is that we are cohabiting with other members of our society who hold a certain level of privilege, with other members of our society who hold a certain level of privilege. So what I was thinking is, to focus more on creating Black excellence or fostering that Black excellence, and rediscovering and through education and making sure that we are supporting our Black businesses. We are also being more literally financially wise, or building our capacity for financial literacy. From our own individual level and family level, and getting aware of, I guess, what Witness and Sister Melanie were just saying about how to create that capacity on our own, so that it wouldn't be, because we have to acknowledge this reality that there is a competition even among within our group, ethnic group, and rightfully there's a lot of factors that has impacted that particular individual to get to that level of quote unquote privilege status. But there's a lot of things that we have to do to fill in those gaps by way of redirection of some of the language we're using, and also creating this capacity that we need to do so that it's more sustainable, and we're going to be having to reap the reward for our future offsprings, and creating creating better generations that are financially and economically, politically going to maintain this wave that we are trying to catch up, because I'm going to maintain this wave that we are trying to catch up, because it's always this, we're always on the shorter, the bottom end of the totem pole of, if you can say, with regards to our status in general.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to do a lot of that in-house, and it is going to take a lot of re-education and to undo some of this, some of the barriers that we're now facing, or better navigate through those systems.
Definitely.
So,
can I just add to that quickly?
Go ahead.
To answer another aspect of the question, I definitely say that cohabitation. I say if cohabitation here means among each other, it's going to be a requirement. Yeah, I think that there are no people that access power or create power bases among themselves that don't live in close proximity to each other, or have bases whereby significant numbers of them operate in close proximity.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say I would get rid of the word segregation. I would say exclusivity, and in some instances I'd even say separation, in the sense that we have to have things that are exclusively ours and separate and distinct from the powers that be, to whatever extent we can manifest that in this current climate as it stands at the moment. There are no, and I'll end this by saying that white privilege is a byproduct of white power, and so in effect, whatever privileges we are able to create among ourselves will be based upon our ability to galvanize and exercise power. The only question is, what is going to be the purpose of that power? And we understand that white power the purpose of it has been oppressive. The outcome of it has been oppressive. And our own power and our own privilege as a result of that power doesn't need to be oppressive. And I don't think we even need to be in danger of that fact or question it too much, because, we're just not that kind of people. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'll leave that there.
Can I come in there? Blessings. Say that. Okay, so with the whole segregation, blessings. Say that. Okay, so with the whole segregation, separation part of it, yeah, I feel like when we're talking about privilege and black privilege in contrast to white privilege, yeah, what we're talking about is the psychology and the treatment and the representation. So the way we look at each other, yeah. And at the moment, currently, um, outside communities find it difficult to trust us. They label us as people with bad motives, as well as ourselves. We find it difficult to trust within our community. Now, I feel like we need to put in a bit more effort to repair some of those relationships and give our brothers and sisters the benefit of the doubt and say, do you know what? No, I do trust. And give our brothers and sisters the benefit of the doubt and say, do you know what? No, I do trust you. I feel like, yeah, the relationships within our community need healing. I think that's what white people have done. They've put on the best representation. They've chosen and preferred to do dealings with people within their own community. And by doing that, that representation and that psychology has been contagious and has rubbed off on the outer communities. So it's not to say we should separate. That's not the conversation at the minute, I don't think. It's not to say we should separate from any interaction with other communities. It's just that we should almost give our brothers and sisters a preferential treatment that will help to reinforce and severed relationships.
Absolutely.
Indeed, indeed. I kind of like that. I personally have no qualms about preferential treatment for my community. And on that note, I hope everybody in the chat is hitting that like button and subscribing to Constructive Convos. We need you to preferential treat us good and give us some likes and subscribes. Okay? In addition, I want to plug my brother Shakaraj's channel, because we family here, and we're gonna promote all the platforms that are going to give out promote all the platforms that are going to give out this good information, so we can build our community, so we can have strong black men, strong black women, raising strong black children,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Brother Shakaraj has a program. He's a new daddy, and I always hail up the little baby Shakaraj when he's crying in the background. So always hail up the little baby Shakaraj when he's crying in the background. So make sure you guys subscribe to what is it, Shakaraj Speaks?
Yeah, so I've got two. My personal one is Shakara Speaks.
Okay.
Yeah, it's AKA RA Speaks, and my media company is Got Kush TV. And in fact, we're going live on Wednesday with a conversation entitled "Why Don't Black Men Value Black Women?" So I do encourage. Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah. We gonna be in the house. We gonna be in the house. Okay. You know I'm gonna be in that house.
Yes. Because
Okay.
Shakaraj.
definitely.
Okay. So I wanted
And
to.
Sister Melanated, I just have to say, listening to Shakaraj's channel has helped me actually equip some of the tools that I feel like we need with this sort of topic that we're now having. So tapping into some of our rich heritage and our culture, and looking into incorporating some of our African principles into this wave of Black betterment, and getting more economically savvy and supporting one another through that. So big ups, and keep the networking flowing.
Thank you
All
very much.
right.
Appreciate it.
So going back to the topic, the last comment, brother B2 was talking about the preferential treatment, and that made me think of, I recently came into contact with a plumber, and when he was advertising himself, he said, I give a 15 or 20% discount to impoverished minorities. Now, I gave him some props because I knew that he was trying to say my black people, right? Because of the community in which of where he was a predominantly black community, but due to certain discrimination laws and things like that, it's really difficult, and it puts you in a real uncomfortable position to just come out and say, yeah, I'm giving discounts to black people, but that's kind of the vibe that we need to be on. Like if you have a daycare provider and you're a daycare provider and you're in the hood, charging $250, $275 a week, like, and these people can't afford that. It's not helping your community. This is just putting a hardship on people. This is just putting a hardship on people. So we have to be mindful and trying to have more of a balance. Like, I mean, I'm not saying doing it for $20 a week either. You got to eat and you got to live, but we just have to kind of more so think of be a community, and that cohabitation that brother M.A. Brown was talking about. We kind of have to be along in those lines as well to flourish. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, I feel you on
Well
that.
said.
I just want to touch back on the power thing that we was talking about here, because I definitely think privileges are backed up by power. Where like Brother Witness was talking about weaponry in it, that's like firepower in it, and then
Mhm.
also we're talking about like economic power. So yeah, definitely we need to get our power game up if we want to be having privilege and also protect it. But also on the financial thing, just on a simple thing, like we there's often talked about like money bouncing in a community, yeah. And
Mhm.
it sounds like fantastic, but in a simple sense, yeah, it's like say if I've got £100, yeah, and then I spend that £100 with you, yeah, it's like I'll spend £100, but we still have £100 in the community, which if I make something, you could send that £100 back with me. It's a simplified version of it, but you see what I'm saying? Instead of me having to keep making £100 every time, like just like that, to have £100 in the community, where if it's flowing around, that same £100 can can do a lot. But we need to become producers in order for something for like that to work.
And what do you mean by producers? What do you mean?
We need to be providing services and products so that we can interact with each other financially much more, instead of having to go to other people for certain things.
I honestly think there's a level of fear about that. I mean that people are afraid of having their own business and being the person providing the service. They would much rather pay pay someone else, and they would much rather the security of being an employee as opposed to being an employer. Um, so like all of that is we need to have discussions about it. We need to encourage our we need to have discussions about it. We need to encourage our um, the people in our circle on the benefits of being self-employed, the how that actually contributes to the community when you are a person providing a service. 'Cause I just feel like people are really scared to do that. I don't know if anyone else agrees with that.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's very important because I mentioned it earlier with the black farmer in the UK.
Mhm.
What I'm basically getting at is that as in order to achieve this black privilege, black people would then have to have within their community service providers. We couldn't just be consumers. So being consumers is not going to enable us to have that type of autonomy or power or privilege. We have to be the ones creating the service, whether this service is financially through the banks, as we talked about, or agriculturally through farms, or we talked about, or agriculturally through farms, or technologically, there was an interesting program I was watching by a man called Killer Mike. And for 3 days, he decided to only utilize products from Black businesses. And one of the things that I found out from that episode that I didn't know is that there's a Black American company that actually makes smartphones. So he had to get rid of his iPhone or his Android. And he ended up finding out this company by Black Americans. I can't remember the name of the company. And they made a smartphone. So he bought that and he used that. And he would only buy food, even from Black stores, but he had to make sure that the tins of food came from Black farms. So in order to achieve that privilege, being service providers is mandatory. So we can't just be consumers. We have to be the ones creating the service. Mandatory. So we can't just be consumers. We have to be the ones creating the service as well as using the service. And the other thing I wanted to mention, which we haven't touched on, is when we create this Black privilege, who's going to police it? Are we going to start talking about having more of our own people helping to police so that we can actually talking about having more of our own people helping to police so that we can actually hold on to this privilege?
Yeah.
I just wanted to add one thing on top of what Witness said. But one thing that we, even in the forms of products and services, one thing that we haven't really talked about is some form of international hub in forms of distribution, in meaning that if someone could able to collect in a whole heap of products, because we do have people that sell on a small scale, but if we have a big hub where we have a collective of all different people in one space, then it's able to distribute that from one community to another, which we were able to advance our products and services with the media.
That sounds interesting. I like
you
the sound of that.
You mean like one hub, like in a like one continent, or like one hub
No,
per
like
continent, or
okay, for instance, how the Asians work it is that they've got plenty of shops all over the place. In forms of unity of collecting, having all people different shops, and then having one big warehouse where they do wholesale, and that wholesale will collect products from different continents and different countries and brings it into one hub. So we must from different continents and different countries and brings it into one hub. So we might have one in the UK, have one in the United States, you have one in Africa, you have one somewhere in Europe, and like continuously like that. But what it is that we're collecting each other's products to one base so that we are able to supply in the shops as much as they need. Because as we have today, most shops are competing with 20 other shops, which, as I said, one shop can't cope on its own.
that's so true.
I definitely agree on the economies of scale of, working together in terms of, even if in terms of in a small scale, if you look at people renting a container and you can't fill it, so then you get someone else to go in with you, and then it reduces your shipping costs. So in that, and like logistically, and yeah, but I think a big problem, is trust in it. We definitely need to work on our situations of trust, and a lot of it is through conditioning, how we've been conditioned to distrust each other, like a lot of divide and conquer. And I feel we need to rebuild those bridges and take more risks in it with each other, and at the same time have a social responsibility to each other to ensure that we don't break the trust with the people in the community, so we can continue to build.
But also, it could be argued there's an easy, well, I don't use the word easy, but a way around trust is paperwork, and i.e. contracts and so forth. And maybe we could start utilizing those things more as well in terms of our building, as opposed to, my brethren or, my family member or whatever. Because going forward, contracts and so forth, I think will be very, very, very important. Just to add my little 2 pence, but yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I think paperwork is important when you're talking about doing business, with someone, and how you're distributing profits and your You're designating roles and responsibilities and so forth. Yeah, it's. I think that's
But I'm
imperative to
also
do.
saying, sis, sorry to interrupt, in terms of
Mm-hmm.
alleviating that potential, do you understand? Mistrust, as it were. Because if everything is down on pen, you know, on paper, and we know what the you know, the ramifications are of any sort of contractual breakup, whatever, you know. But yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I definitely
But
think you know, that kind of agreement is, you know, a handshake should be a contract in it, but these days in it is with many people it's not in it. So I do see the benefit of strengthening that commitment, just in the way that some people, you know, in a marriage they're more committed than they would be to the same person if they wasn't married.
Right.
You know what I'm
you
Right.
know
saying?
what it is though, babe, as well. It's like I think we also have to maybe change our way of thinking in it, because you know, many of us enter contracts all day long, every day, but we just don't necessarily see it like it's a contract. Do you know what I mean? Like if you, I don't know, if you buy something from, you know, an electrical store or whatever, and you get a receipt, it is like a type of, well, I don't know any lawyers
I
in the
mean,
thing, but it is like a type of contract. Do you understand what
or
I'm
like
saying
your
to you?
cell phone, or they sign up for a cell phone and they get a cell phone contract for 2 years. You signing up, you just can't break your cell phone contract, or else you gotta pay to break
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. So I'm just
So
saying that, you know, hopefully going forward, maybe we just try to encourage more, you know, contractual stuff within, you know, the community, as it were, or within the family, just to, you know what I mean, make sure that there's no, you know, try to alleviate at least the mistrust.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel you. Like, do you think, you know, there's a distrust with contracts maybe in the community in terms of like, you know, especially like, you know, in the 80s or the 70s or like in earlier times where, you know, we wasn't so privy to the small print and we lost out on certain things. And even like I suppose with the Bridge Park situation, I'm thinking that is some of that is to do with not having a contract, but some of where Brent feel that they have a position on it must be to do with paperwork, right?
Yep, that was a
Well,
lot.
I just think that going forward, that's just something that we have to really be up on, because you
I
know, it
agree
could
with
be
that, sis.
argued
but
that's often how we, you know what I mean, how certain
I
it
agree
could
with
be
that, sis.
argued
but
that's often how we, you know what I mean, how certain people get found out.
Yeah, I
Do you know what I
feel you.
mean? I'm sure
so
there's cases.
brother
Yeah,
E,
go on, sis. Sorry, go on.
can you briefly describe to the family, the Constructive Convo family, about this project that is now in litigation and some of the details pertaining to that? Not
You know
everyone
what?
is
Yeah, I
privy.
think Brother Terry would be better to speak on that
Okay,
if he'd be up for that.
brother Terry.
On what aspect are you talking about? The Stonebridge complex?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
On the Stonebridge complex, it's just the same kind of thing. Is education is key in it. And when they had a piece of land, they offered to taking over that land from the London Transport, and what it was offered to them. They got a contract, which they gave the land to the community. And the issue was is that the guys that took this on board were young. They weren't very knowledgeable, and you know you'll see this in most youth clubs and social places. We tend to do certain things, get some funding, and spend it on the wrong things, like i.e., for instance, sound system, and going to market and coming around and not realizing how strong a contract that you have. But then what happens is that when you start to rely on certain establishments, these establishments will look at the value of what you have, and they will keep on spoon feeding you until when you pull that carpet underneath your feet. But once they can do that, then you are going to lose the premises that you valued and had at that precise time. But in that perspective, with the contracts and understanding the contracts, it all boils down to the forms of education.
Okay. And
Yeah.
right
I
now
wanted to.
they are trying to they're in like litigation or something, trying to see if they can undo some of the decisions that they made while they were not educated on the law and the details of their contract, right? That's how it,
Yeah.
that's okay. Okay, I just wanted to, for people who might not be privy to the story, to understand
Hmm.
that, there are people who are trying to establish these black communities, and they are trying to have resources and a central hub place where there's a community center, and there's places for vending, and there's after school programs and so forth, so that we truly can have this community. So stay tuned on to Constructive Convos channel, and as things progress, and if there's opportunities where you're able to contribute and support to help these people not lose this land,
Okay.
even
Mainly,
if uh-huh.
I just wanted to say, in that perspective, they
Okay,
have
you
a
want to
court
bring it up?
case. No, no, they have a court case on the 27th in Strand, in the High Court, and they're asking for as many people to arrive at that courthouse to protest against the council actually getting that cell to. They've kind of sold it, but they're trying to stop the cell completely, because at the end of the day, if you can get that land back, they can actually create schools, communities, businesses, and so whatnot. So they're asking people to go near Strand on the 27th of February, which is this month.
Okay, family, you guys hear that? We need our UK family to stand up and show out. Um, when we always sit around and talk about when other communities, how they get things done, but they get things done because they have that unity. They work through their lunch and take part of the day off, and they go out there. They make a sacrifice, and um, they show face for their community. So this is an opportunity for the people in the United Kingdom to come through, show out, and try to help secure this thing for our people. The
Yeah,
babies need it.
yeah. Because if you save
Oh,
one, you save many.
Yeah, brother
exactly.
Terry, yeah. While we're talking about solutions and you know education and going forward, also if you could just tell what's going on with the Manhood Academy on the 16th, that would be cool.
Oh, okay. They know that out there at the moment, there is another Manhood Academy West, and they are having a graduation. And you know what? Let's just put it on a note that to understand that sometimes we don't have a lot of money to put our kids into private schools or high class schools or professional schools or whatsoever. But the Manhood Academy in generalization is understanding that it can work parallel with the school system, in understanding that we can able to send our child to another school or send them to school and let them learn the culture from the Manhood or Womanhood Academy, which they will have opportunity to even go to abroad and do their rites of passage, which they had done by going to Gambia. So if you kind of understand that procedure, that we're looking for as many of our youth from all different types of corners of life to able to make this Manhood Academy thrive, because it can go internationally, which we can now take our children and teach our children, because it can go internationally, which we can now take our children and teach our children our culture by ourselves. So on the 16th of this month, this is this Saturday, I'm asking everyone to come from 12 to 5 o'clock, which we need all massive medias. We need as much people to come and engage and understand. And they're going to have a graduation. And we're going to have a few people within the community which you can able to network with, even in the helps of your children for forms of schools and ideas, and able to help you in situations that may have problems in with your child and the school. You hear that?
Yeah, there's
That
also a parenting part to it as well, right?
Yeah, there is the good thing with
Parenting part to it as well, right?
yeah, there is the good thing with the Manhood Academy. It has 3 parts. You have the Womanhood Academy, you have the Manhood Academy, and you have the Parenthood Academy. The Parenthood Academy is to engage the parent, not just with the child, but with the parent, because the parent has to understand what the child is going through. So if we gave something to the child, the parent will know and understand what we are giving the child. So a great perspective. And then we've got this scenario now, which is like Sesame Street. You know, like when you have a celebrity passing through, and what we do is that we get people from the community, people from all different walks of life, coming to demonstrate what they do, whether it's business, whether it's education, whether it's health. And like the first day we started, we had Dr. Layla Africa passing through and teaching the kids and the parents of certain things that they should do by looking after their children.
Yeah, that's great.
Should do by looking after their children.
Yeah, that's great.
All right.
Man, oh man.
Layla Africa, you know, family.
Big things. Brother Terry doing big things.
Yeah.
Somebody,
but you know what?
Take over real quick.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about. You know, at the end of the day, you know what? We can all talk about the big things, but we need to know the small things for the people on the bottom of the ground. Because at the end of the day, if we don't increase or help the people on the ground roots, how are we supposed to excel? How are we supposed to excel?
Yeah, trust.
Brother E.
Yeah, definitely the ground. Like, I think sometimes we think we're gonna start doing something when we get to a certain level, but there's definitely a lot we can do at the smaller point. You know, like you don't need to have a business to help somebody with a job. You might be in a position where you're working yourself, but an opportunity comes up and you might be able to slide a recommendation for a brother or sister, or, you know, you might be able to, you know, use a little bit of your leverage that you have in the company to get them in. And that alone is now, you know, helping the community and bringing more financial power to the community, and also people power in the organization that you'll find yourself in.
Yeah, because that's what I was talking about. You know, like before, I was saying about having our warehouses and dealing with distribution. And I used to say to myself, you know, like when you see the things like Deliveroo and they're doing all their forms of deliveries, it would be nice if we could able to employ most of our youth into doing deliveries. Now that if they have their little website and able to deliver certain products that people want, then it can able for them to even build up towards having a shop. So it's just making that extra 20, 30 pounds into their pocket, which they can take that 10, 20, 30 pounds and put it into a form of a credit union. Are you there?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I think with the youth in it, we need to employ them and get them employed as soon as possible in terms of by ourselves in things that we can do for our own community. Like when they're young, they will accept a lot less money and they'll learn how to deal with it from a younger age. So then when they do start getting real money, they don't start learn how to deal with it from a younger age. So then when they do start getting real money, they don't start wasting it and devaluing it, because over that time that you've been giving it to them, you've also been able to give them the seeds that are going to grow into something strong in terms of financial education. But a lot of the times we don't have that opportunity where we are part of the guidance of them giving them money. Like, I think pocket money as well is quite important, even if you don't have a lot. But just by giving pocket money, it gives you the right to talk about money to your children, because obviously you're a provider of it and a source of it, so you can be respected in terms of information when it's coming through. But if you're just telling your child how to deal with money, but you never gave them any money, then yeah.
Hey, Shakara.
Yes,
Shakara.
sir.
You know like the products that you do for the kids. You know them kind of boards and the game you normally have.
The games I normally have?
The ones that I saw you with at the event.
Which event was this?
This was at the Kwanzaa.
You saw me with board games.
Is it board games or something that you had that teaches it? You said that you
Oh
teach it.
no, okay, so yeah, I did learning aids.
Yeah, learning aids. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they're wall aids. Yeah, what about them?
Yeah, I was talking about.
Yeah, they're wall aids. Yeah, what about them?
Yeah, I was talking about the education for the youth and to a perspective of able to selling products. And because I know you've got that kind of product, is showing people that, you know, they can able to help you sell products in that format to the youth.
Yeah. So the business is called meducation.com, meuln.com, and the whole point is to basically create African-centered learning aids. To be honest, the business has kind of been on the back burner while I'm engaged in some other stuff, but it's still there. It's just about developing, you know, learning aids that reflect our children, that reflect our children in their image and their culture, and also to aid in kind of developing the African-centered education stroke home education movement. You know, we need to add more legs to that particular institution that is developing over here. So yeah. But can I just say though, the longer term plan where this here. So yeah. But can I just say though, the longer term plan where this thing is concerned is to develop paradigms in African-centered education and training in it. Yeah. So the longer term goal is to really have a training course, a teacher training course, in African-centered education. That's the longer term goal.
Okay. So you see, family, a lot of people got things going on, and these are the kind of things that we need to invest or into able to bring in prices. Something where you can able to develop your own children, so you can do it in your own home, and then able to selling this on to other families. But yeah, melanated.
Yeah. No, definitely. That's whether we specifically or explicitly state it or not. These are strategies for developing Black privilege. You know, our kids should feel a certain level of privilege by being in an African-centered school. You know, have Africans or by being in an African-centered school. You know, have Africans or Black teachers. The students is Black, and then when someone who is non-Black joins, you know, perhaps they may feel the way that Black students feel now within the school system. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you don't know who Shango is? What's wrong with you? Oh my gosh. You know, like, you know, that whole, I got one up on you. That whole, you know, like, I got one up on you because our kids are definitely not thriving in the current school system of how it is now. Like, you know, we don't have to beat the babies down with the actual numbers, but we all know what it is. We watch the news, we see what's going on, and just an example of an African-centered learning environment will create a certain level of privilege. It will address the level of pride. It addresses the economic portion of your community. It's so much just in that one example. You know, yeah.
That's why unity is so key. You know, and in saying that, we need to able to come and join because everybody has a part to play. We need to able to come and join because everybody has a part to play within this society.
Exactly. We are approaching a little over 30 minutes more of the show, and I just wanted to inform everyone that next week's show, we are going to actually address our self-image. So the question we'll address is it important for us to change others' perceptions of us? Is it important? Is it important? Hey, baby Shakara. Is it important for us to change others' perceptions of us? So please, 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 combat perceptions of us. So please, 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 come back and fellowship with us here, family. We are here to build and dialogue about important topics that affect the Black community. So let's try to talk about some solutions. Is Black privilege the solution, or if it is, what does that look like? Like, can someone summarize it? Like, and everyone, make an attempt to try to summarize it, if that is a solution, or if they don't agree with it, then
Black privilege looks like Baldwin Hills.
I can't with you, brother witness. I can't with you.
Baldwin Hills, you got me Googling right now.
Yes, Baldwin Hills. Can you please describe Baldwin Hills? So I don't even know where that is. Is that in
Baldwin Hills is the Black.
Describe Baldwin Hills. So I don't even know where that is. Is that in
Baldwin Hills is the Black Beverly Hills.
I knew it. It sounds like a California type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you know what? Yeah, for me, Black privilege is not necessarily like where it's an uppity thing. I think for real Black privilege, and like you say, in other communities don't necessarily have it down and pattern. I feel like we need to be willing. The rich need to be willing to be a bit poorer for the poorer to be a bit richer. I feel like that would be the proper privilege, innit? When everyone is good. And I think it's easier for us to do that as well, because there's like, well, I don't know about the population in Africa, innit? Yeah, because, just like the map, innit? It could be inaccurate.
Ask you a question.
Privilege earned or what's the other word? Like just given.
I think it should be given, but at the same time, it can be taken away, innit?
Yeah, but you see, E, let me give a question in the fact that what is rich?
Oh yeah, like in terms of privilege, innit? Yeah, it's not entirely financial, innit? So there's a lot of riches, innit? To be able to be easily employed, to be protected instead of harassed by the local security forces, and be protected instead of harassed by the local security forces and offended in that sense, to be able to go abroad and the locals there treat you in a certain way that is respectful and mindful of not upsetting you. That is a part of being rich.
For me, when I want to answer, sorry, I just wanted to say, for me, just to answer that question, I just look at the Black Americans. I look at their history. I look at Tulsa, Oklahoma. There was an area called Black Wall Street, and you had another place in Florida, I've forgotten. But basically, due to racism, they were pushed to one side of the city. They had their own banks, had their own churches, had their own grocery stores, had their own farmers. Everything worked cohesively together. They supported themselves. Not everybody within that community was filthy rich, but most people made a good living through businesses, either as service providers or as consumers. Everybody worked together agriculturally, financially, religiously. I don't know if they had their own police force, financially, religiously. I don't know if they had their own police force or they had their own security. But that to me is like, I think of Black privilege. I think what the Black Americans achieved in certain towns. We're going all the way back to 1920s or even before then, 1900s, before the various race riots burnt down their towns. But that's my idea of what I would think Black privilege is. Black Wall Street is a classic example.
And do you think that's something achievable in the like?
I think it's already been achieved. The Black men and Black women who've set up businesses have their own banks. Whilst we were talking, I was just looking at 6 owned banks in the UK by black people, black-owned banks in the UK. So black people have achieved that. One thing I will say is they're not very good at publicizing or promoting themselves or advertising themselves, because we never hear of them. You have the black farmer who does his thing. You have Levi Roots. Everyone knows about him. He's been very good at publicizing himself. Well, there are black men and black women who are doing things. You've got the Manhood Academy. Black people are doing stuff. It's just that we don't seem to hear about them. So it's a case of there are black people out there, men and women, doing stuff. If we can then just inform the masses and then try and unite, link up, then that would be it.
And that's where the media needs to join up as one, where all medias are able to push up that demographic of information to the general public. So that's why media is very key.
Do we have much power within the media as production companies, or I don't know?
I don't think we have that much power in the media at the moment, yeah. But I think one of the things that we need to do is just like adjust our frequency, you know. What we're trying to pick up is a lot of the time we're just open to whatever's in front of us. But it's like if you're a vegan, yeah, no matter how many chicken shops you go past, you're not gonna get the chicken. You know, you're gonna end up finding out where the vegan spot is, and then you're gonna be good. But you know, we're so used to whichever finds us easiest, the path of least resistance, and we run with that, and we forget that like it might be easier in the short term, but in the long run, we're only making it harder for ourselves.
Hold on a minute. How come black privilege was never created in Brixton, places like Brixton, or Elephant and Castle back in the 90s? You know, because there were lots of black businesses there, African businesses, Caribbean businesses.
A lot of people sold their houses and properties.
All right, I see. Okay.
So when you get shortages of people selling their properties because that person that worked so hard, and this is where we have this gentrification thing, in that a lot of people, when their parents that have worked so hard built the shop and they don't want to deal with the shop no more, they end up selling it. But the problem or the issue is who's going to buy it.
Well, I think I would like to even just come in on even what Terry's saying there, because like I'm listening to the conversation and I'm really trying to work with this word privilege. Do you know what I mean? And so, for example, is privilege, is it instantaneous or is it something that's built over a period of time? Because I think that true privilege has to be something that is sort of built over a period of time, and most importantly, is consistent. Do you know what I mean? And there's commitment to it. That's what I think will, I think,
you know what it is as well? I think we are good at building something, but we lack in maintaining it.
Okay. And that's the privilege bit, because coming back to even what you just said, yeah, like, you know, where persons, you might have had the old school people that have built or bought us whatever, but the other generations are willing to carry it on. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure we can give different incidences of that, and even bigger organizations that I could even think of that for whatever reason didn't stay for the long haul. I mean, like Choice FM, do you know what I mean? Sold out for what, you know, whatever reason. Like we haven't, like there's a lack of you know what I mean, like longevity. Who else? Kiss FM. Yeah.
Red Records. Do you remember Red Records in Brixton? Red Records. Remember that?
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, now you're really going back but yeah, 100%, man. So I think that, you know, one of the things that we need to, you know, put in, man. So I think that, you know, one of the things that we need to, you know, put into whatever we're doing, you know what I mean, is to build in that sort of vibration of commitment and consistency. Do you know what I mean? Because I think without those two elements, you will never have privilege, because you'll never, do you know what I mean? It will never be progressive.
Yeah, because
you know, yeah, the privilege thing, yeah, for me, like to answer your question, yeah, I think it, as for the individual, it can be, me, like to answer your question, yeah, I think it, as for the individual, it can be instantaneous. But for the community, it's probably more reasonable to assume that
Correct.
it is going to be a process. To assume that it is going to be a process. Now, for me, the privilege, is the extra patience, the extra allowance, the extra effort I employ to understand the plights of my brothers and sisters, that I might not have that same patience or appetite or, for people outside of my community, because it's just like, for your own, you have certain understandings and you can make certain leeways for do you get me? Different type of privilege. Do you know what I'm saying? Just like when, for instance, when you see certain ethnic minorities, not just black people, but ethnic minorities committing certain crimes, it's narrated in a certain way in the media. But then when you see white people commit those same crimes, the way it's narrated, it's almost like they're giving them preferential lenience. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, when I'm talking of privilege, I'm really more focusing on the interrelational sort of aspect of it. Do you get me? The relationships between the bonds that we build between each other. Do you know what I mean? And obviously that has to be supported with the economic capabilities, as been mentioned, because if you want to start to be in a position where you can employ black, you got to be at the top of that organization in order to have that that decision power, if you like. You know what I mean? But I think primarily it's about the relationships.
Yep. Everybody knows somebody.
Yeah. And that's why we know Brother Terry, because Brother Terry know everybody.
All about networking.
But yeah, I think like privilege should be aspired to be, a birthright in our situation, Like, say, for example, if we look in America, an example of white privilege is not being shot by the police, or like it's more difficult to be shot by the police. That's something that we should want as a birthright. Obviously that shouldn't be a privilege, but in today's society, in today's society, it's become a privilege.
I don't know what you would say that for England.
I would say, yeah, definitely. Not in getting shot, but in at least even getting stopped.
And that's happened to a friend of mine. Where it's the same procedures. Because they shot him without even stopping the car.
Yeah, like there's a lot of studies in it to show the preferential treatment when it comes to stop and search, which would then come to court cases. And if there's already problems in terms of racism on the side of the solicitors, you can only imagine what the situation is for the people in front of the judges.
Melanated.
Those are some good privileges right there, man. I mean, some good privileges right there, man. I mean,
Intergenerational, I want to put in there as well, man. Like, I think that's definitely a very key component to this privilege thing, man. Intergenerational and yeah. Because the thing is, in it, one hand can't clap in it. And generally, when you have privileged people, it's not like one of them, is it? It's like a set of them. And they all, keep each other. Yeah. Group economics is the way. Huh?
You're only as weak as your weakest link.
Yeah, man, definitely. And there's so many instances in different communities where we see group economics is the way forward, especially when you're a minority, in an outside country, etc., etc. So yeah, for me, in order to gain privilege, we definitely have to practice group economics, especially in Babylon.
Because it will give us the privilege, if by the group economics, it will give us the privilege to able to even buy a politician or rent a politician.
There you go. There you go. Exactly that, man. Exactly that.
And even like if you look at what we could do just by practicing it, say with the millions of people that we got in the UK, even now we're making this money, so we've got this extra money, and say there's, I'm not too sure, maybe 4, 5, 6 million people, black people in the UK. If we all started putting in £1 a month, how many things we could do in a year?
And you know what? And if that happens, like with that, in that perspective, in that if we able to build in ourselves, and the Americans are able to build in ourselves, we're able to have that privilege to able to network and able to build ourselves even more greater.
Mm-hmm. I think Marcus Garvey, that was something that they was advocating for, right? Like having situations in each country that where wherever we went, we was able to connect with people that would ensure that we had certain, like, you know, we call them privileges, but it's basically rights, and you know, that are generally taken away from people at the bottom of the totem, you know, that are generally taken away from people at the bottom of the totem pole, innit? Or not in part of dominant society. But yeah, by having these hubs where we can go to and we can tap into people that can defend our privileges, that would be very beneficial. So it definitely needs to be international.
When you say people who can defend our privileges, I wanted to ask this question earlier. Does black privilege also relate to utilizing the political system, say within the UK? So trying to utilize black politicians or black councillors within the UK, trying to lobby them. I'm thinking ahead. If we have businesses which have achieved some form of success, I'm thinking ahead. If we have businesses which have achieved some form of success, autonomy, can they start lobbying those black politicians to try and get things for their, or are we against using the political system in this country? Do we see that as Babylon or evil, or do we want to use it?
Nah, you have to witness.
Okay, all right.
If you're gonna stay here, and if we're saying that, if we're looking to do what we're describing here, then you have to get into certain elements of the system. And I think going forward, that's where we have to really change tact. Because I would sort of say, you know, yeah, we definitely probably maybe remained on the outside a little bit too much, considering we were amongst the first immigrants here. Do you know what I mean? And if you look at others that come, they get right involved. Do you know what I mean? And if you look at others that come, they get right involved with the you know, with the system, as it were. Whether that be, you know, politics, you know, what other infrastructure is there? Can't think of others at the moment, but yeah, I would definitely like to see more of us within the political system, 100%. And I think it's something that we should encourage our children to be, you know, doing, you know, and even in the social, you know what I mean, the social system and so forth, penal, all them things that we know run, you know, runs the thing. I think we should encourage our young people to definitely get involved, because at the end of the day, you have to be in it to win it. And there's no way you can win on the outside. There's just no way. And obviously, we're not even looking to win in it, but we're looking to at least be in the race in it. Yeah. So yeah. And my thing is, and going back to even, you know, arguments. Well, not arguments, but debate. Who's doing that, man? That sounds like Tipex. But in debates gone by,
yeah, who is doing that? That's strange.
Where, you know, this whole thing of being British and all this type of malarkey has come up. And my thing is that if we're looking to stay here, if persons are looking to stay here, yeah, i.e. they are looking to stay here, therefore their, you know, children and so forth and so on, then we need to, you know, get a foothold in. That's what I would definitely say, you know, because I think in the past, many of, you know, the, even if you call it the Windrush generation, they've not necessarily put their whole eggs in this basket. Do you know what I mean? And many of us can talk about parents that have gone home or retired back home, etc., etc. So yeah, a bit of a rant, but that's what I would certainly say. You know what I mean? You got to be in it to win it, man. And that's one conclusion I've definitely come to. Sorry, family, went off on one there, but yeah, man. Consistency, commitment.
I wanted to commitment. I wanted to
I wanted to continue the discussion on solutions, but being that you just spoke, Nanitha, and what we have been doing is encouraging the family to, one, make sure to like and subscribe. If you have not done so already, just reach up and like the channel and like the video, and also subscribe to the channel so that you can be privy to all of our discussions that we have, which are centered on how to improve the Black community, and conversations that kind of just talk about a lot of the issues that go on within our community. So what I wanted to do is, if you could tell the family about the Rice and Peas show that you do every Sunday.
Oh, sis. All right, then. Well, yes, family, man. Yeah, but all right, you can see bare background noise here because we're live. But yeah, you don't know that it's live. But yeah, you don't know the thing set, man. But yeah, man, Rice and Peas show, family. Generally about the 1 o'clock kind of time. And yeah, man, we just deal with the topics of the time, really. The last show we done was Heaven versus Hell, the afterlife, you decide. Yeah, it was a great little build I found. I mean, good array of panel, good array of you know what I mean, just talk and vibrations. Definitely not echo chambers. Do you know what I mean? A little bit of bite. You don't know, sometimes tongue and teeth must meet, family, but it's all good stuff, man. So yeah, man. Rice and Peas show, and hopefully by the end of this broadcast, I'll even have Rice and Peas show, and hopefully by the end of this broadcast, I'll even have given you the topic for this week, Sunday, because I've got a couple written down. So hopefully I'll be able to give you yeah, man, the topic for this Sunday, man. But it's just about FUBU, for us, by us, you don't know, and it's a space and time where you can just come and feel comfortable. Yeah.
And again, sister, you said
and feel comfortable. Yeah.
And again, sister, you said 1 p.m. So the difference in UK time is like at least on the Eastern Standard Time, that's a 5-hour difference. So that's about, what's that, 10 o'clock in the morning, 10, 11, 12, 1. No, that's like 8 o'clock in the morning for us. So you wake up in the morning. For those who don't go, o'clock in the morning for us. So you wake up in the morning. For those who don't go to church, you get you some good vibes on Sister 9 Ether. That's the number 9 Ether 99. So you can search for her on her YouTube channel. I'm trying to plug up all of my peoples up on here. So Brother Terry, Black Ice TV peoples up on here. So Brother Terry, Black Ice TV, right? It's the Black Ice TV 7. Is that it?
Yep, Black Ice TV 7, all one word. Just log in every Wednesday and every other day. We will be covering a lot of people, a lot of places internationally, as we're planning to go to Brazil, and Brother Rich is planning to go to the Dallas, Houston area. We're going to be going live from different aspects of America, South America, and the Caribbean in Jamaica.
All right. So see, we got a large array of different channels that focus on different things, but it's all good vibes. It's all different aspects of our community. Somebody else, my dog going crazy.
We never really discussed with Black privilege how we would deal with certain things. Like we never talked about, we have privilege, how we would deal with certain things. Like we never talked about, we have a situation in this country where we have a lot of Black kids in children's homes, and there are not enough Black people who adopt kids. So a lot of these Black children, they remain in the children's homes for a long time. So I'm curious how Black privilege would help that. Plus, we also have a situation where not enough Black people are giving blood or signing up to be organ donors. So we have a situation where Black people are struggling when they're in need of medical help.
I think those are good points that you raised, Witness, to be fair. I mean, I've got here, because I found a pen. So I've got stable family here, because I found a pen. So I've got stable family, do you know what I mean? And I've got that kind of circled. And again, I mean, these are foundations, man. But I definitely think that these are things that we need to be, working on going forward, both as men and women. Yeah. So we're not putting any, extra emphasis at one or the other, but certainly, more kind of emphasis on a family vibe, more commitment. I mean, maybe try to take a few pages out of the, the elders' books in terms of, I don't know, maybe a little bit more stickability, a little bit more planning, that kind of thing. But yeah, I've definitely got, that kind of. Although we know, and let us not be silly, we know that there's a definite attack on the family, right? So let's not go on like that. We're under, normal circumstances. However, you know what I mean? Maybe some of us could fight a little bit, harder to party, as it were. So certainly I would say, stable family. And what you said there about the blood donation, etc., I think you're bang on there. I'm there about the blood donation, etc., I think you're bang on there. I'm definitely guilty of being a shirker, man, for different reasons. However,
in saying that, Nani, for in forms of what he just said, in forms of health, if you're able to have the opportunity, if you can make your way to the Ankwell being in Shepherd's Bush, Adelaide Grove, where she sells a whole heap of products. But the great thing about with this woman is that she is linked to most of our products. But the great thing about with this woman is that she is linked to most of our holistic doctors within the community. So if you needed the checkups and needed certain things, you're able to go to Adelaide Grove, or you could go to Basil in Pampansy in Brixton Hill. All right. So those are the two kind of portholes for you to start off from in forms of health. But in the terms of the youth, in some youths in the forms of health, but in the terms of the youth, in some youths in the homes, as I said, we've got Manhood Academy, we've got the Rites of Passage, we've got the Saturday schools that Nigel takes her son to, where if you know anybody within them kind of homes, which they can want to have places to go to, and even to learn their culture, there are many places to go.
What was the name of the place again in Shepherd's Grove you mentioned? Ankwell Inn?
Ankwell Bean. It's
How do you spell
10 Adelaide Grove.
It's what, sorry? 10?
Adelaide Grove.
Adelaide Grove.
Off the Uxbridge Road. And the
name of
the postcode is W12OJJ.
Oh, 0. Oh, JJ. Okay.
Yeah, as in 0JJ. And you can give her a call on 0208 743 1885. And she's got all the products, jewelry, food, and they do like a vegan food every Thursday. You can go down there and you get a big healthy plate of good food, but it's vegan, no meat, but it's a start.
What's her name? What does she go by? What's her trading name?
Name is Sister Ivy.
Sister Ivy. Cool. All right. Thanks very much.
Sister Ivy.
But witness, just sorry, Scattered, just to stay on witness's topic previously. So like I said in it, I'm definitely one that's chickened out of this whole blood donation and this, that, and the other, and whatever. However, it is something that I would like to do in it, and I've probably become a little bit more grown up and changed certain thinkings. So, witness, if ever a time comes where you go to do such a thing, then you get me, link me up and I'll come with you. Like, I can't go on my own. I'm telling you that straight. I'll never get there, yeah? I'll never get there. However, if a time comes where, I'll never get there. However, if a time comes where, you're going to do, whether it be blood or, was it the donor one? What's it called?
Organ donation.
No,
just signing up for it.
bloody witness, not organ. No, what happened to you? Hey,
blood.
No,
It's
the
blood
bone
donation.
marrow thing, right?
Oh, that one. Okay.
Witness is going for my organs,
Well, sorry.
Nah.
I was pushing
Nah, very joking, man. Nah, very joking.
Most of these doctors can give you a full body check because most of them have got the machines. People like Steve Sally give you a full body check because most of them have got the machines. People like Steve Sally, Wilcott, and a few others. There's quite a lot of.
Terry, I just wanted to mention to you, we have there's somebody in the chat called Miss Eclectic Spirituality who's taking a lot of who's really interested in what you're saying. She's made the request. Terry, can you type those names into the chat, please, brother?
No problem.
Cool. What were you saying, 90? What were you saying, 99? You were saying something?
Nah, but I was just saying, if ever a time came when you was going to do that, because obviously you've highlighted it, I'm not sure if it's something that you've done yourself, yeah? However, if there's ever a time and you was going to do it, then you can certainly link me up and I'll come with you. That's what I'm saying. But I would never do it on myself, on my own. I can't lie. They'll never get me.
Thanks. Cool. But the other thing we have to mention is not anyone can donate blood because they have to screen your blood first. So I don't want to make it sound like we're suddenly not worth it, but just so that people want to make it sound like we're suddenly not worth it, but just so that people know.
Witness, stop that. They're gonna want mine. Don't worry about that, man. Jesus. Nah, mine's good, but I hear you still, man. I hear you, man. But I do think it's really important.
Oh Lord. You was making her a little scared there, Witness.
Yeah.
Talking about the details of the procedure. Okay, let's not scare our sister away.
Yeah, you're
exactly.
Right.
She just said, get her there. That's it. Okay, so we're waiting for the family to come back.
Yeah. No, but I do think it's important still, man. You know what I mean? And it's, there's been a few times when I've heard the valley cry and I chickened out, man. So going forward, because I'd like to think if I was in need, you know. So yeah, man. But anyway, that's that. But my blood's good, Witness. Yeah.
Cool. That's good to hear. That's great.
Yeah. McLean.
Yes, I just wanted to quickly address your concern that you mentioned, and I mean there are so many different areas as a community where there's work to be done towards towards this larger umbrella term called liberation, where we are self-sufficient and our position is self-sufficient and our position is significantly improved from on a global stance, right? So there's a lot of different areas where work needs to be done, and I agree. One of them has to do with the tremendous amount of our young children that are involved, that are part of the system, that are in foster care or foster home, are involved, that are part of the system, that are in foster care or foster homes. What I would do is I would encourage anyone who has the ability to, sign up with they have private organizations, and then they have the you can become a registered foster parent, and children that look like you can foster them, you can parent them, you can coach them, you can help raise them and be part of the reunification process. You can be a foster parent and you can attend visitations with that child and their birth parent and be a part of this family coming back together. Not all children who are in foster care never return back to their birth parents. I don't have the statistics of how many actually do their birth parents. I don't have the statistics of how many actually do return back to their birth parent, but I would say that the younger the child is, the more likely that they will be returned to their birth parent. A lot of times adolescents end up staying in the system until they age out, right? So end up staying in the system until they age out, right? So I would say probably under the age of 12, you probably have a better chance of the child reunifying with the parent. So the more black foster parents we have, worst case scenario is those children will be placed in homes that may more closely represent the values and of their birth parents, right? And not just the values, but the culture that their birth parents have. So I know it's not a fix and a resolution to this larger issue of the system being involved with our children, physical, sexual abuse, and neglect, and all those type of deeper issues that are within our community. But what I will say is that we as Black people are not represented, are not stepping up and saying my home is a home where I want to welcome children who are in the system, they're removed from their homes, and these are children from my community. So we need more and more Black foster parents. I'm definitely speaking from an American perspective, and you can correct me if I'm wrong by stating that that's probably the state in the UK. So, family, we are coming.
Oh, before we leave, I need to ask you a question as a representative from the North American continent, you and Hawaii. But can you please tell me, has Black privilege been achieved? Continent, you and Hawaii. But can you please tell me, has Black privilege been achieved at all in any part of the USA, as far as you're concerned?
No, not Black privilege like anything close to what we described, because a individual having certain privilege is not necessarily Black privilege. I mean, if LeBron James can have if LeBron James can have nigger spray painted on his home, I don't think we have achieved Black privilege. Like that, to me, that's indicative of how far we have come. That's indicative of how they see us. So my answer would be no.
Okay, thanks.
So really quickly, I'm going to go down the line. We got 3 more minutes of the show. Thanks to everyone who stuck in there and hung in with this very interesting conversation on Black privilege. That just shows your, how invested you are in just this information and this knowledge and trying to uplift yourself and your community. We're going to say yes or no for Black privilege. Sister Naita.
Yes. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes or no? What do you mean, though? Sorry, what do you mean, like yes or no?
Yes, you think that's a good thing, or no, you don't think it's a good thing?
Well, yeah, widely, I think, yeah, it's a good thing.
Okay. Brother B2?
Yes, it's a yes from me.
All right. Brother E? Brother E?
So what was the question, sis?
Is Black privilege a good thing, or is it a bad thing? Yes or no?
Yeah. Like, it's necessary. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, Sister Hawaii, you here?
Yes. And to answer the question, yes.
Okay. What about you, Brother Raz? You didn't say much.
Yeah, I'm still here, man. I'm listening. I'm still here.
What do you think? Black privilege is a good thing? No. Good thing? No.
Yeah, it's a good thing, man. I think that it won't be like I don't believe it as privilege. It won't be like I don't believe it as privilege. I believe it's just Black excellence. or yeah, man.
Okay.
Because yeah, sorry. I'm agreeing with what you guys are saying so far. Still.
Okay. Appreciate it. Brother Terry.
Yeah. Yep, 100%. Black privilege all day long.
And Brother Witness.
Yeah, I like the term black betterment, but I understand black privilege. I am 100% behind it because of what the black Americans managed to achieve back in the 1920s for a short while with Rosewood, to achieve back in the 1920s for a short while with Rosewood and with Black Wall Street. So they gave me a glimpse of what black privilege could look like. So I'm 100% in favor of it.
Okay. I like that. And my vote is, black community all day, every day. So it just makes me excited to think about a community where, you know, as Brother E rephrased it, that our children have an advantage. That just sounds so dope and so awesome to me. So I guess this concludes our first show. I guess this concludes our first show, right? I don't know how to conclude it, but
Yeah.
we appreciate you coming to visit, coming to spend time with us. We hope you thoroughly enjoy. Don't forget, next week our show will be on do the what should we should we try to change the perceptions of others that others have of us? Should we try to change the perceptions that others have of us? Should we try to change the perceptions that others have of us? That will be the topic for next week. So, with that being said, peace and love, fam.
Bless up,
Peace.
family.
Peace.
Peace.